Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Amygdala Media Interviews. I'm the host, Hewitt Pagenstecher, and the owner of Amygdala Media, which is a full-service videography business in Portland, Oregon. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Josh Johnston, who's one of the owners of Independent Restaurant Concepts, which manages, owns, and operates numerous restaurants in the Portland area and the coast, including the Independent, where we're seated and filming this right now, Produce Row, Paddys Pub, and I'm going to read off the rest of these so I make sure I don't forget anything.
Sure.
Satellite Tavern, CADILLAC Cafe, Pacific Crust Pizza, Cafe on Hot Creek, MARZANO'S Pizza Pie, and North 45. Josh, thanks for joining me today. Did I forget anything?
Nope, you got it.
Awesome. Great. So tell me how you got started in the restaurant business.
Sure. Well, I lied. So I needed a job, a summer job. I started as a barbecue catering cook, actually, and did that for a summer. And when I turned 21, they needed somebody to bartend at a wedding, and they thought I was reasonably charismatic, so they moved me into the bar, and I realized really quick I enjoyed that quite a bit. And I went to the big Irish bar that I was affiliated with and told them I wanted to learn how to bartend, and they kind of laughed at me and said, well, we haven't hired a bartender in 10 years, we don't hire bartenders, kind of thing. And so I went to the lead bartender and I offered to work for free for about 3 weeks if he would teach me how, and he took me up on the free labor, and that's kind of how I got my foot into the door of working in that particular restaurant, which I worked on and off for years, summer job between jobs between traveling, that kind of thing. Moving forward, when I got out of college, I worked professionally in sales for a number of years, mostly high-tech sales. And at one point I had a pretty easy, I'd call it, sales job. I was a young single guy, didn't have a lot of responsibility, and was cruising along and making decent money, but the cubicle just kind of was sucking the life out of me. And I sat there and I said, my dad's self-employed, my grandpa's self-employed, I'm going to be self-employed. And I sat there and I went, well, shit, I'm not qualified to do anything. I don't have a trade. I'm not an engineer or an electrician. And so I really went through this kind of a self-exploration. I read this book called What Color Is Your Parachute? It's a book on finding a career that you're good at and that you enjoy. And it circled me back to the restaurant industry. I always enjoyed it. It was kind of the funnest job I ever had. And so I knowing how hard my dad worked, I'm like, well, if I'm going to choose a career as an entrepreneur, I really better pick something that I enjoy. And that's really how I decided. I decided for fun and the passion associated with that. So I left high tech, went back to bartending for about 2 years, and it took about that long to figure out how to get a business plan, find a partner, get money, sign a lease, and get started.
So what was your first restaurant endeavor?
North 45. North 45. Yep. And again, we didn't really know what we were doing or getting ourselves into, and so it was very bootstrap operation, a lot of friends and family and beer and pizza, fixing the place up. And the concept, we knew we wanted the warmth and intimacy and social elements of a English or an Irish pub, but we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves as an Irish pub. So we said, well, both of us like to travel. Let's go with more of a international travel themed pub. And the name was actually the last thing we came up with. We were getting down to the wire and we needed a name. And so we were going through this long list of brainstorming, and we couldn't figure out what to call the place. And we actually stood outside the front door with a GPS, and we GPSed it and went, well, we're on the 45th parallel, North 45. And that's how we got started. So we couldn't afford to pay both of us when we started. So I took the bar job. My business partner took a day job, and we did that for the first 2 years until we bought Paddys, our second place, a week before St. Patrick's Day. And I rang him up on the phone. I said, I need you to quit your job. I need your help now. And we've been working full-time together ever since.
That's amazing. Yeah, so it only took 2 years after North 45 to to purchase Paddys as well.
Yeah, we figured out real quick that we didn't think that that one store alone would create the opportunity for us to, have the income and the lifestyle we wanted, and so we needed to grow.
Nice. And Paddys is the oldest Irish bar in Portland, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, so it's like a pretty historic bar. I go there pretty often too. I really like their menu and the community they have there. They actually have like a comedy open mic on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I go to there from time to time, watch some local comics. And I also saw in the paper that they won a Guinness Book of World Record for the largest Irish coffee ever made.
Yep, we did that on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day of this last year, and we'd actually set that world record once before, about 6 or 7 years ago, with a different whiskey vendor, and my partner that I work with quite a bit now wanted to beat it because he wanted his name on it, and so we were planning to do it originally in 2020, and the governor shut us down the day before St. Patrick's Day. So, 50 cases of whiskey sat on a pallet for 3 years, and we were finally able to reattempt the record. And it took a ton of logistics. It involved forklifts and flatbed trucks and hauling in this huge stainless steel brewery tank. And but yeah, we set the world record and got our official plaque, and we're really proud of it.
Wasn't it like 52 or 57 gallons? Or how big was it? Do you remember?
It was more like 260 gallons.
260 gallons.
Yeah. Oh. So it took hours. I think it took 5 or 6 hours to build it. We had to heat everything on site, transfer it in. We had a professional measurement expert that had to be there to certify that we did what we said we were going to do. And once we had set the record, there was actually a spigot on the bottom, so we were able to pour the Irish coffees and sell them for $5 a pop for a charity.
Yeah, that's so awesome too. And that's like the type of like publicity that money can't just necessarily buy. That's like something that creates a memory, an experience, an atmosphere that like coincides with like a business or location or brand that I feel like makes a restaurant like really like stand out too.
We hope so.
Yeah. So what do you think are some of the biggest factors into being successful or sustaining a successful restaurant?
Oh, well, the one the obvious one is location. You want a good location. I'm sure you've all seen it. You can go to any sort of tourist trap, and if there's a good enough location with enough people, the restaurants can actually be pretty mediocre and still do just fine. I think that's sad to see, obviously, because you're just missing out on so much opportunity. But location's a big deal, and I think really understanding the community you're going into and what they need, and trying to not jam what you want to do into the community, but really understand what would benefit the community. Maybe there's a niche that hasn't been filled, and work backwards in that manner. And then, in a city like Portland, such a foodie city where there's so many great choices to eat and drink, and everybody has a great cheeseburger and an amazing craft cocktail and an Instagrammable facility, you really have to wow people to build their loyalty, because it's a lot harder these days to get loyalty because there's so many other things to go and see all the time. And so we really lean into our people and really press on our people to bleed hospitality and to create these memorable experiences that make people want to come back.
Nice. How do you what's your process like when like putting input on like the design or atmosphere of a restaurant? Do you normally use it as is, or do you have like an interior designer come in or get them remodeled often?
It depends. If we're taking over a existing brand, something really institutional like Paddys or CADILLAC Cafe, some of these brands have been around, since the 70s. We try not to, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So initially, if we take over a brand like that, we really don't mess with anything unless it needs to be right away. Deferred maintenance, that kind of stuff. And we'll just take over, learn the business, learn the customer, understand, and then slowly make adjustments moving forward. If it's a new concept, or say we take over a restaurant that's been shut down and we need to fully flip the brand, that's super exciting because we get to go through the whole brand creation, and there's a lot of layers involved in that creative process. But I think that's the most fun, is sitting around with a beer and figuring out the vision and how it all ties together. So this place, for example, we knew it was a sports bar, and we wanted to really give it an identity that stuck out in Portland, that worked for Portland. And so we went through a kind of a long creative process and ended up tying it back to a local baseball team that was owned here, they were called the Portland Mavericks. And they were known as the Independents because they didn't join the National Baseball League, but they were really good, and they had this really big cult following and were beating some really big name teams. And so they got known as the Independents, and we tied that back for a couple of reasons, because it had a local connection to the team, but also a lot of the mindset of the average Portlander is a very independent attitude. They don't like corporate. They don't like, big company. And so we figured that would resonate, and, so that kind of fun stuff.
I feel like a lot of people in Portland want to be independent and unique in their own way. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like one of the defining characteristics of a restaurant is the menu. It's the food. I feel like that's probably at the core of every restaurant, and that's probably one of the exciting things to explore or curate when you're putting a vision together for a place. So what about that process in creating a menu for a new restaurant that you're building from scratch?
Sure. So that really starts in the development of the brand, like we were just talking about. And, at the end of the day, our food and drink is our product. Certainly people can, buy beers and take them and drink them at home. So it's not like we're giving somebody something unique that they can't go get on their own, but what they are really getting is that full experience. So it all ties together: the food, the drink, the lighting, the menu, the experience, the staff. Food in particular, depending on the brand, we'll start with a menu that we think is going to service the customer and be successful. And then all the back end work starts. So we have to go through the recipes and the costing and sampling and, menu testing, and we'll go to market with what we think is our best guess at what's going to work. And after we have some time to gather data, call it, 90 days, 180 days, we can actually pull data and do what we call menu engineering. And so what we'll do is we'll take the menu item, the menu cost, what we're charging for it, and then the volume, and it'll spit out for you in a matrix where that menu item lands. High profit, high volume is what we call a star. Low profit, low volume is a dog. High volume, low profit is a workhorse, and high profit, low volume is a challenge. So you want to get rid of the dogs, keep the stars, figure out how to get your challenges to become stars, and then your workhorses. Sometimes those are just things that you leave on there because they're so popular, and that draws business in to where you can build sales on from there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I wasn't aware of that terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how important is finding the right chef for a restaurant, and what's the process hiring a chef? How do you go about hiring a head chef for a restaurant?
Well, I think that, and this isn't industry specific, but I think any business owner would tell you that people is the most important part, and also the biggest problem. Just, you can build all the systems and processes you want, but if you don't have people that can execute and do a good job and that care about their job, then it doesn't matter how much process you have. So depending on the concept, you might not need a celebrity chef to execute it. For a while we had a culinary director that would help work with the kitchens and the kitchen managers and chefs to get the menus built. And then, it's really a machine, right? I mean, if you want quality and consistency and creativity, right? So depending on the concept, again, as you get a little more, fancy, I guess, the customer expects a little more creativity And so you need a little bit higher caliber skill set in the kitchen.
Cool. And I'm curious about independent restaurant concepts. It's a consulting and managing agency that you created to kind of manage all these restaurants. Did I kind of put that correctly? Can you kind of explain a little bit about what independent restaurant concepts is and how that like might act to your benefit as a business owner?
Sure. So every restaurant has its own LLC, and we treat it like its own siloed company. And once we got to 4 restaurants, we figured out that we needed a better way to spread some resources across the enterprise. So we created our parent company, or our umbrella company, and that's Independent Restaurant Concepts. So it's actually set up as a consultancy, and we're the consultants, Independent Restaurant Concepts, and our restaurants are our customers. So, we contract with each restaurant. We own all our own customers, which is kind of funny, but we contract with the restaurants so that we can share resources across the enterprise, whether it be marketing or operations or, back-end support with payroll and HR, that kind of stuff. And what that really does, again, is it just simplifies this. I'm biased, but I think we're a pretty cool company to work for in that, your single owner operator, mom and pop shops are trying to do a lot with not a lot of resource, and it's tough, right? And then you've got your big corporate entity where people tend to get lost and feel more like a number than a person. And we kind of live in this sweet spot where we have a lot of the structure of a corporate restaurant. We've got good training and medical benefits and 401k and a marketing department and all these kind of resources to help the managers and the stores be successful. But we're still 2 local owner operator guys that are in our stores every day, and the staff and the management have direct access to the ownership, so we can work with them to be, really take ownership over their brand and, be pretty dynamic in how we come up with our action plan.
I think kind of organizational structures like that is useful for aspiring business owners to be thinking about. Maybe if they're really passionate about creating restaurants or a business or the product, but they're not as knowledgeable about how certain organizations could work to their benefit. Sure. I'm curious if you have any other tips for aspiring restaurateurs.
Well, you know the joke, how to make a small fortune in their restaurant business.
How is it?
Start with a large fortune.
Oh yeah.
It's a tough business, and I think that traditionally it was somewhat of a unprofessionalized business, in that you would get a lot of people that got told, wow, you're really great at throwing dinner parties, you should open a restaurant. And so you had these people that were really creative, and they would open a restaurant and realize there's a lot more work than the fun part, which is entertaining the guests. Yeah, it's all that stuff on the back end. So the industry has gotten a lot more professionalized, which is great. But there's what advice would I give? I would say just be ready to go to work.
Yeah.
Lean on. One of the things I did is I leaned on mentors, other restaurant owners, and everybody I asked was super willing to help and share their experiences with me. And it really taught us a lot as we entered into our first restaurant, and 18, almost 20 years down the road, where in theory we'd be considered experts in our field now, it's fun for that to come full circle, and we get to help people as they're venturing into their new opportunities.
Nice. Yeah, it definitely comes full circle there, where you can mentor people. And what would you say is one of the more challenging aspects of owning a restaurant?
People. 100%.
Yeah. Seems to be a lot of high turnover right now, or since the pandemic, if the articles I've read are accurate.
The workforce has come back, so we're not having as much trouble with that. I think just pre-COVID, post-COVID, people will always continue to be the biggest challenge, and really finding, we always tell our managers to grade your staff A, B's, and C's, and if they're a C, can you get them to be a B? If they're a B, can you get them to get a B and A? And you always want to be upgrading your staff and looking for those people that want to hustle. It's not necessarily a hard job, but you want people that are nice, quick learners, quick on their feet, and they want to hustle. And if you can do those things, you can go a long way. I would say to circle back on your pandemic comment, the employee base has come back. In Portland in particular, the customers have not come back downtown, in our downtown stores, to their offices. So that's, I think, and I don't know if this is going to a local audience only or a larger audience, but locally, if the city government would lead by example and mandate all their employees to go back to work in the office 5 days a week, that would kind of overnight create that density that'll help a downtown like this get its vibrancy back. And that's what supports all the hospitality and the shopping and the restaurants and the retail. And so, you got to have customers, right?
Exactly. And even, tourists who come through are going to feel more kind of, excited and safe in a place that's more populated, and there's more businesses that are thriving.
Absolutely.
So what's next for independent restaurant concepts for you? Are you opening any restaurants on the horizon?
Oh, geez. Well, we are still kind of grinding through with our downtown properties, rebuilding. We do have one of our pizza concepts, Pacific Crust Pizza, is, I like to say it's homeless right now. We prototyped it during COVID, moved into a couple locations where we could try it out. And when that lease expired, we chose not to renew that lease because we basically built that brand to be moved out into the suburbs and turn into a multi-unit brand, really. And so we just haven't quite gotten the bandwidth to reach it yet, but it's prototyped, it's sitting there, it's ready to roll. So as soon as we get, the time and money, we're going to see if we can roll that out and have some fun with it. We think we can open 5 to 10 stores in a pretty quick clip, which would be a lot of fun.
Do you think you'd be expanding some of those beyond Oregon?
That brand, we bought the rights to go into Washington and Idaho. And whether that be us that does that or, we come up with maybe a franchise opportunity, I'm not sure. Got to get the first ones open first.
Yeah, of course, one step at a time.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Josh, I really appreciate you coming on this episode today and talking to you and learning about independent restaurant concepts. Thank you so much, everyone who tuned in. Go support one of Josh's mini restaurants and have a great day. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.